In this class, we're going to explore more in detail which are the main source of data that are managed by and are needed by the procurement process, and so included in the usage of SAP ERP. The procurement process is executed as all the other processes in the context of specific organizational levels. Organizational levels relevant to the procurement process included, some organizational data that we already discussed in the past, like client, like company, like plant, and so, the meaning remained the same. However, we just say that most activities in the procurement process occur within a company code, and also plant are involved as a plant fulfills many functions in a company, including procurement. In particular, in the context of procurement, a plant is the location where the materials are received. But apart from client, company code, and plant, when we deal about procurement, three additional organizational data are relevant, and in particular they are storage location, purchasing organization, and purchasing group, and we are going to explore more in detail this one. Let's start with the storage location. Storage location are places within a plant where materials are kept until they are needed. A plant can have multiple storage location, and each of these location is designating for different purposes. And here you just can see example of location like recycle, like bin, like warehouse, like pallet, where materials can be stored, because a storage location can include shelves, bin, cabinets, trays, and they can be just part of the building, they can be the entire building, depending on the size of the material that need to be stored. Of course, a plant must have at least one storage location. If it wants to track quantity and value of material in the inventory. And of course the plant cannot perform its function without storage location. So a plant must have at least one storage location if you want data associated to the plant, but also if the plant wants to perform its duties and its function. Instead, if we look at the GBI case, we have essentially this storage location that you see represented in the slides for the different JBI plant. In particular, as you can see, the Dallas plant has 4 storage locations for raw materials, for semi-finished goods, so for finished goods, and for miscellaneous materials. The Miami and in San Diego plant instead have 3 different storage locations for finished goods, for trading goods, and for miscellaneous material, while instead if you switch to the German company of the JBI, we see that we have the Heidelberg plant and the Hamburg plant, where the structure is similar to the US. In fact, Heidelberg plant has storage location which are similar to Dallas plant, so raw materials, semi-finished goods, finished goods, and miscellaneous, while the Hamburg plant has a storage location which are similar to San Diego and Miami, so finished goods, trading goods, and miscellaneous materials. We already talked about purchasing organization, but then we start talking more about this from an SAP perspective. A purchasing organization is the unit that performs all the activities related to purchasing, let's say strategic purchasing, sourcing, and supply, and they can be executed for more or or just one plant. The aim of the purchasing organization is to evaluate and identify vendors, negotiate contracts and conditions, define pricing, and stuff like this. Of course, as we already saw in the past, there are different types of purchasing organization that can be defined, and in particular, for our case, we distinguish between the enterprise level model, the company level model, and the plant level model, and we are going to see what they mean in detail. I mean, this model range from highly decentralized to highly decentralized to, I mean, in accordance to also what we see in the previous class. Let's start with the enterprise level purchasing organization, which is known also as the cross-company code purchasing organization, which is, I mean, the most centralized model. There is only one purchasing organization for the overall enterprise and all of the plants within the enterprise. And I mean, in this model, the purchasing organization is assigned to each plant, but not to the company code. If we refer to the model that we have already seen in the past, I mean, this is equivalent of the totally centralized model of the purchasing department, where there is a central procurement department managing all the spending of the company. In the case of JBI, I mean, if we make the hypothesis that JBI use the enterprise level purchasing model, we see that there is just one central corporate organization that, I mean, is responsible to manage all the purchasing for all the 5 plants for both the companies in US and in Germany. If we switch to the company level purchasing organization, also known as the cross-plant model, I mean, a single purchasing organization is responsible for multiple plants in one company code. This approach is less centralized at the enterprise level model because, I mean, in this model, the purchasing organization is assigned to both the plant and the company code. So it is responsible to purchasing for both the plant and also the company. And I mean, each purchasing organization can be assigned only to one company code. If we refer to the model that we have seen in the past, we can see that it is quite equivalent to the hybrid decentralized model, where direct goods are managed directly by local procurement offices reporting to each plant, so to the production, while we have a central procurement department which instead is, I mean, has the responsibility to manage the spending and the categories which are shared among different plans, but also with different functions, such as marketing, such as finance, such as research and development, and stuff like this. In our case of JBI, if we make the hypothesis that JBI use a company level purchasing organization, we should, I mean, introduce 2 different purchasing organizations, one for the US plant, so in charge for all the spending management for the US plant, and one for the German plant, so responsible for the German plant purchasing. Please note that we don't have here represented the central purchasing organization, because, I mean, in our case we just make the hypothesis that we deal with direct materials purchasing, and so, I mean, according to our model, direct material purchasing are managed at local level, so we don't see the central procurement department, which instead has the responsibility to manage the indirect spending of the company. Finally, we have the plant level purchasing organization, which is the most decentralized model, which is also known as plant-specific purchasing organization, because in each plant there is a specific purchasing office in charge to manage all the needs that the plant may have. As in the case of the cross-plant model, the purchasing organization in this case is assigned to both the plant and the company code. And it is very similar to the totally decentralized model we already discussed, where, I mean, there is no central spending and all the spending is demanded to be managed by local offices reporting to the different business unit and the different production plants. In the case of JBI, if we admit that the plant level purchasing model, I mean, we should introduce a specific purchasing office or purchasing organization for each plant JBI has both in US and in Germany. More, we have also as organizational data for procurement what we call purchasing group. Purchasing group is an individual group, or a group of individuals called buyers who are responsible for purchasing activities for a material or group of materials. These activities include all the activities of the procurement process, like planning, claim managing, purchasing, requisition, requesting quotation, negotiation with supplier, creating and monitoring purchase order and supplier performance and stuff like this. In particular, I mean, the buyers are characterized by purchase order management, which is, I mean, that document which is the main way of communication between the buyer, the company who is buying goods or service, and the vendor, and where, I mean, stated terms are included and describes. This purchasing group for buyers then also represent the main points of contact of vendors within the same category. So within the category buyers are managing. A purchasing group, I mean, is not always an entity within a company. So I mean, it's not directly that a purchasing group are people in the company, because company can use also what we call the business process outsourcer. So company that charge the purchasing process, the execution of the purchasing process, so are in charge of the execution of the purchasing process in place of a company. So can be also outsourced to other providers. And I mean, purchasing groups not necessarily reflects the concept of purchasing categories. I mean, we already talked about sourcing categories. Is not, I mean, immediate that buyers are assigned to sourcing categories, because, for example, groups can be also defined per geographical area. So, for example, JBI has one purchasing group for North America and one for Europe, meaning that we have buyers which needs to deal with all the purchasing in the European area and all the purchasing in the North America area. Then, besides organizational data, we also have master data, which are relevant for the procurement process. In particular, the four master data types that are relevant to the purchasing process are material master, vendor master, purchasing info record, and conditions. Material master are all the data needed to execute transactions related to purchasing materials, and they can be grouped according to different views. So material master are all the data that are interested in the execution of the procurement process, but they can see according to different perspective. In particular, we have basic data, which are, I mean, data common to and share with every function participating to the purchasing process. But then we have some views on the data according to purchasing, so view of the data according to accounting, and some view and specific information which have been made visible to at plant storage level, so for forecasting and sales. I don't spend too much time on basic data because we already seen that when we speak about basic data management in ERP, but basic data include information like the material number, the description, the weight, the material group, so all the stuff that you see highlighted in this picture. But just go back to what basic data are and which is their structure in order to better understand their role in the procurement process. Instead, let's focus our attention of material master in the accounting perspective. Financial accounting data include the valuation currency, the valuation class, and the price control. Let's focus our attention on the valuation currency. The valuation currency is the currency that the materials will be priced in. For example, if we are in JBI US, there will be dollar. If we are in JBI Germany, there will be euros. The valuation class instead identifies the general ledger accounts associated with the material. So, general ledger accounts are used to maintain the value of the inventory in stock and are updated as material are purchased, sold, or used in production. And the valuation class provides integration point between purchasing and financial accounting, because thanks to the presence of the valuation class, the system is able to automatically post appropriate stock or inventory accounts in the general ledger when purchasing transactions are in place. So all financial transactions for materials with the similar valuation class, with the same valuation class, are posted in the same general ledger account. Finally, we have price control. Price control identifies the method that is used to give value to the material, and in particular we have two options to make this. What we call the moving average approach and the standard price. The moving average approach, evaluate the stock according to the value that has been paid to build this kind of stock. Here you see an example. If you have 1,000 helmets in stock, and their purchasing cost has been $34,000, their moving price will be 34, deriving from the ratio between 34,000 and 1,000. This is called moving price because let's make the hypothesis that the enterprise purchasing an additional 100 helmets at total price of 3,500. The new moving price will be 35.09 because I sum up 34,000 with 3,500, and then we divide for 1,100, and we get this value. In contrast, standard price is constant for a specific period of time and does not fluctuate until a periodic time is passed, like monthly, quarterly, and stuff like this. So in this case, we have 1,000 helmets in stock, and the price is 34 because I defined the standard price as 34. After 1 month, for example, if we decide that 1 month is the period which is relevant for our analysis, if market conditions have changed, the price can be increased to 35.09. Otherwise, it will be kept at the actual level of 35. Instead, what we have as purchasing views. Purchasing data or view, realize what we call the purchasing group, the goods receipts processing time, and the delivery tolerance. The purchasing group, we have been discussed already, is the one of the organizational elements in procurement. So is responsible for purchasing a group of materials. So we don't spend too much time of this. Instead, good receipts or processing time. When a company receives materials from a vendor, of course it requires sometimes to receive them, check them, place them into storage, because we have to unpack the boxes, count the materials, inspect their quality, physically move the materials to the appropriate storage location, stuff like this. So it is nice to estimate how long does it take to process a good receipt, and this represents a material master data which are relevant to purchasing. And finally, we have the delivery under or over tolerance, because it's not uncommon that when materials arrive from a vendor, more or less in units can be included, so the delivery, the shipment can be accepted or not, depending on the policy of goods received. So the delivery tolerance in the material master specify how much over or under the delivery the order will be accepted or not. Of course, if the quantity exceeds the tolerance, in plus or in minus, the shipment and the order will be refused and returned to the vendor. In the planned storage perspective, instead, we have storage requirements, we have shelf life, and weight volume. Why I'm pointing this out? Because the planned data storage include all the data that are needed to properly store the material, like environmental requirements such as temperature and humidity, special containers, shelf life, instruction for special handling, all the stuff that are relevant to store safely the material. Then we have the vendor master. The vendor master data include all the data needed to conduct business with vendor and to execute transactions related to the purchasing process. So the vendor master data include all the data that you need in order to make the process running and make the business with the supplier. In particular, as you can see here, the data present in the vendor master are of three types. You have general data here, you have company level data, the accounting data that we see before, and the purchasing data, so related to the purchasing organization. They just share the general data, but they are quite independent. Let's focus on what we intend as general data. General data include, as you can see here, the vendor names, the vendor address, the way of communication, like phone, fax number, and so on. And these data are defined at the client level and are consistent across all company code and all purchasing organization in the enterprise, especially if the supplier is shared among different plant or different companies. As we said, these general data are shared between the accounting view and the purchasing view. The accounting data instead include all the data that are vendor related, but which are relevant to execute accounting activities. And in particular, we have account information, bank information, reconciliation account, payment terms and method, and type of communication with the supplier. In particular, I want to point out the attention of reconciliation account, because accounting data must specify the reconciliation account in the general ledger, because if you remember, the vendor account is a sub-ledger account, and thanks to the reconciliation account, the accounts payable can be identified, and the accounts payable account in the general ledger can be associated with the vendor. Purchasing data instead may include various terms related to determining prices, creating a communication partnering orders, verifying invoices, and other steps involved in executing purchasing with the vendor. The purchasing department will usually see this segment because purchasing data are defined at the purchasing organizational level, and then should be applicable only to this organization. For example, if we just consider, Incoterms are all the shipment modality that can vary according country to country. So, for example, from JBI US to JBI Germany, delivery and payment terms can vary because we are varying the country, so condition of delivery and just currency and cultural aspects can be different. So it's good that purchasing data have been kept separated from company code to company code, even if they are similar. Finally, we have the purchasing info record, which is, an intersection or a combination of material and vendor data. So relates to the vendors and materials. An info record contains data which are specific to one vendor and one material or material groups, and they can include data that are in the vendor master and the material master, or just some combination that are relevant for vendor and material. The data, in the info record can be distinguished between general data and purchasing data. That was included in the purchasing info record. General data can be applied to all purchasing group and include, vendor number, material number, other data used for communication like contact information, telephone numbers, and reminder, while purchasing data include delivery times, delivery tolerance, quantities, pricing condition, possible promotion, and so on. Please remember that companies use pricing condition to determine the cost of purchasing from the vendor, and the info record can define a number of different condition types, including gross price, discounts, surcharges, taxes, and freight. And if the amount of information to be stored here is relevant, condition can, and we already said before, can become a type of master data to be stored and to be consulted using SAP ERP. If you see here, we have an example of the purchasing info record taken from JBI. We have the vendor, whose number is 100006, and the material under investigation is SIHRT1000 for purchasing organization JBI US, and this purchasing info record indicates that SPY gears, which is the material under analysis, takes 4 days to deliver the t-shirt. Sorry, Spy Gear, which is the name of the vendor. So Spy Gear takes 4 days to deliver the t-shirts, and they will charge $15 per shirt. But I mean, when orders are higher than $1,000, they offer a discount of 4%. You also see a link to the purchasing info record, the last transaction that had been executed for this type of vendor.